The 1950s, a decade when America believed anything was possible. Car makers raced to build the future, with tail fins, jet-inspired chrome, and massive engines. Detroit became the beating heart of the American dream, where engineers and artists worked side by side to create machines that were beautiful, powerful, and luxurious. But beneath that golden age, cracks began to form. When technology went too far, when style overshadowed practicality, and when marketing replaced engineering, disaster followed. Dozens of cars rolled off the line only to be mocked, recalled, or buried in shame. In today's video, we'll revisit 15 automotive disasters of the 1950s. The cars that proved even America's dream machine had a dark side. 1958, Ford Edsel. In 1958, Ford launched the Edsel, promising a new era of American motoring. The project cost over $250 million and was promoted as a design revolution. But instead of glory, Edsel became one of the most expensive failures in automotive history. From the first glance, controversy struck. The horse-collar grille drew ridicule. Some said it looked like a chrome-plated toilet seat. Under the hood, the car featured powerful V8 engines, yet poor assembly, unreliable teletouch push-button transmission, and high maintenance costs destroyed its reputation. Worse yet, the Edsel arrived during an economic downturn, when Americans no longer wanted flashy cars. Within 2 years, production ceased, with fewer than 110,000 units sold, far below Ford's expectations. 1957, Cadillac Eldorado Brougham. If one car embodied the extravagance of the 1950s, it was the 1957 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham. Priced at $13,074, twice the cost of a Chevy Bel Air, it was marketed as a car for those who dared to own tomorrow. Every detail screamed luxury: automatic doors, memory seats, power windows, even a vanity kit for ladies. Yet beneath the chrome perfection lay chaos. The advanced air suspension leaked constantly, causing the nearly 5,000-pound car to sag awkwardly. Delicate electronics failed in heat or cold, and maintenance costs were staggering. Cadillac reportedly lost around $10,000 per car, producing just over 400 units. The Eldorado Brougham was the ultimate statement of opulence, and a timeless warning that technology without reliability can destroy even the mightiest name in Detroit. 1956, Dodge La Femme. In the mid-1950s, as America celebrated the idea of the modern woman, Dodge thought it had a brilliant idea: a car made exclusively for ladies. Thus came the 1956 Dodge La Femme, painted in pastel pink, trimmed with floral upholstery, and accessorized with a matching purse, raincoat, and umbrella. It sounded charming until real customers saw it. Dodge assumed women wanted a feminine car, but they missed the point entirely. Women didn't need a pink car to feel empowered. Instead of praise, La Femme drew ridicule. The press mocked it, dealerships hesitated to order it, and female buyers felt insulted. Technically, La Femme was just a rebadged Dodge Custom Royal Lancer with nothing special beyond its color and trim. Fewer than 2,500 units were ever sold before it vanished after 2 model years. 1957 Rambler Rebel. Before the Pontiac GTO or Chevy Chevelle ever hit the streets, the 1957 Rambler Rebel did something revolutionary. It dropped a 327 cubic inch V8 into a compact body. With 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 7 seconds, it was one of America's first true muscle cars, just born too early. American Motors believed Americans were ready for a small, powerful sedan. But in the late 1950s, Buyers still wanted big, plush cruisers. The Rebel felt out of place, not quite sporty, not truly luxurious. AMC's limited marketing budget couldn't compete with Ford or GM's massive campaigns, and the Rebel faded into obscurity. Only about 1,500 units were built, yet enthusiasts later hailed it as the forgotten pioneer. 1958, Buick Limited. By 1958, Buick believed luxury meant size and chrome. The result was the Buick Limited, stretching nearly 227 inches long, weighing over 5,000 pounds, and draped in so much shiny metal it could double as a mirror. Created to rival Cadillac, it made one fatal mistake. It was too big, too flashy, and arrived too late. As America slipped into a recession, buyers no longer wanted rolling monuments of excess. Its 364 cubic inch V8 was powerful but couldn't hide its sluggish handling or thirst for fuel. Only 7,438 units were sold before Buick quietly pulled the plug. Critics called it a monument to extravagance, proof that Detroit had lost touch with the everyday driver. 1954, Kaiser Darrin. As General Motors prepared to launch the first Corvette, small-time Kaiser Motors wanted an American sports car of its own. The result was the 1954 Kaiser Darrin, a lightweight fiberglass roadster with a long nose and a curious smiling grille. But what made it famous wasn't beauty, it was disaster. Instead of swinging outward, the Darrin's doors slid into the front fenders. Clever in theory, catastrophic in practice. Even a light fender bump could jam the doors shut. Rainwater leaked into the tracks, and rust made them impossible to open from inside. The underpowered 90-horsepower engine sealed its fate. Priced higher than the Corvette, but slower and less reliable, the Darrin failed to attract buyers. Only 435 units were ever made. 1955, Nash Rambler wagon. In an era when station wagons ruled America, Nash Motors wanted something more stylish. Enter the 1955 Rambler cross-country wagon. With its rounded lines, slim grille, and fashionable two-tone roof, it looked stunning. Unfortunately, looks were all it had. The cross-country tried to blend family practicality with sporty flair. Its compact body, low roofline, and short cargo bay killed the very purpose of a wagon. Folding the rear seats didn't even create a flat floor, a small detail that frustrated families. Though its 250 cubic inch V8 offered decent power, handling, and acceleration, fell short of rivals like the Ford Country Squire and Chevy Nomad. Sales were disappointing. People admired it in showrooms, but rarely drove it home. 1950, Crossley Hotshot. While most of America chased massive chrome sedans, Crossley Motors dared to go small. Their dream was a lightweight, affordable sports car for everyone. And in 1950, the Crossley Hotshot was born. Weighing just 1,100 pounds and barely 140 inches long, it promised driving fun for the common man. At first, the idea impressed critics. The Hotshot even won a few small racing events, but real-world owners quickly faced disappointment. Its tiny 44 cubic inch four-cylinder made only 26 horsepower, barely enough to climb a hill. Build quality was poor, brakes unreliable, and its thin metal body made drivers feel like they were riding in a tin can on wheels. Crossley believed America wanted smaller, thriftier cars, but in the land of V8s, size still meant status. By 1952, the company went bankrupt, and the Hotshot's dream was crushed under the weight of American excess. 1957, Mercury Turnpike Cruiser. In 1957, as America fell in love with the idea of cars from the future, the Mercury Turnpike cruiser arrived looking straight out of a sci-fi film. It had everything engineers thought people wanted: wraparound windshield, twin antennas, a power-sliding rear window, electrically adjustable steering wheel, and even radio buttons mounted on the steering wheel. A first of its kind. The problem? Too much of everything. Those fancy electronics constantly failed, especially the seat-o-matic radio and the sliding window mechanism. All the gadgets added weight, nearly 4,300 pounds, dulling performance despite its strong 368 cubic inch V8. And most buyers didn't want to feel like they were piloting a spaceship to work. Priced high and viewed as over-designed, the Turnpike cruiser flopped after just 2 years. Mercury called it the peak of innovation, but the public saw it as an overcomplicated, impractical toy. 1959 Ford Skyliner. By the late 1950s, Ford wanted to achieve the impossible: a fully retractable, hardtop convertible. The result was the 1959 Ford Skyliner retractable, a marvel of engineering filled with motors, switches, and miles of wiring unlike anything seen before. When it worked, it was mesmerizing to watch the steel roof fold neatly into the trunk. But in reality, it was a mechanic's nightmare. The system used 7 electric motors, 610 feet of wiring, and 10 limit switches. One glitch could leave the roof stuck halfway. Owners often had to visit dealerships just to close the top. Worse, the trunk was almost useless, occupied by the complex folding mechanism. Priced higher than the Fairlane and heavier to drive, the Skyliner was impressive, but impractical. Ford ended production after only 3 model years. 1954. Hudson Jet. By the early 1950s, Hudson Motor Car Company was struggling. After the success of the Hornet, they needed a new car to survive the growing pressure from Ford and Chevrolet. Their answer was the 1954 Hudson Jet, a compact sedan meant to save the brand. Instead, it sealed its fate. Company president A.E. Barrett micromanaged the design, insisting on a taller roofline for older drivers. The result was a stubby, awkward shape that stripped Hudson of its trademark sleekness. Though it featured a strong 202 cubic inch inline-six and an upscale interior, its unappealing looks and high price alienated buyers. Hudson poured over $10 million into the project, yet sold only around 21,000 units in 2 years. The financial hit forced the company into a merger with Nash, forming American Motors. 1958 Packard Hawk. By 1958, Packard, once a symbol of American luxury, was a fading ghost. After merging with Studebaker, the company made one last desperate attempt to stay alive. The Packard Hawk, built on the Studebaker Golden Hawk platform. But instead of revival, it became a tragic farewell. Powered by a 289 cubic inch supercharged V8, producing 275 horsepower, the car had the muscle to rival a Corvette. Unfortunately, its front end featured a long, drooping nose and a massive chrome beak grille that critics called pitifully ugly. Despite its fine leather interior and decent performance, its appearance doomed it from the start. Only 588 units were built, each sold at a loss. When production ended, so did the Packard name. 1951. Henry J. After World War II, Americans wanted cars that were affordable and practical. Kaiser Fraser Corporation thought it had the answer with the 1951 Henry J. A compact sedan priced lower than almost anything else, promoted as a car for every family. But to keep costs down, Kaiser stripped away nearly everything that made driving enjoyable. The Henry J had no trunk lid, no speedometer, no radio, and even the rear windows didn't roll down. Its 68 horsepower four-cylinder engine was sluggish, and the bare-bones interior made it feel more like a tin can on wheels than a real car. Buyers weren't fooled. Americans gladly paid a bit more for better-equipped Fords or Chevrolets. Even a deluxe six-cylinder version couldn't save it. Fewer than 82,000 units were sold over 2 years. The Henry J failed not because it was poorly built, but because it lacked soul. 1958, Plymouth Fury. If one car perfectly embodied both beauty and terror in American memory, it was the 1958 Plymouth Fury. Sleek, finned, and shimmering in golden pearl paint, it was the pinnacle of Virgil Exner's forward-look design. A car that looked fast even when parked. But behind the glamour hid a mechanical curse. Its 350 cubic inch Golden Commando 5.8 made over 305 horsepower, delivering brutal speed that the car's weak chassis and small hydraulic brakes simply couldn't handle. Poor weight distribution made it unstable, and Chrysler's declining build quality in 1958 led to electrical fires, engine failures, and a reputation for danger. When author Stephen King later turned the Fury into Christine, the possessed, murderous car, he didn't invent the myth, he merely amplified the truth. 1953 Chevrolet Corvette C1. Today, the name Corvette stands for speed, freedom, and American pride. But few remember that it began as a flop. When Chevrolet introduced the 1953 Corvette C1, it was meant to rival Jaguar and Ferrari, proof that America could build a world-class sports car. Instead, it became Detroit's disappointment. Its body was made of fiberglass, an innovation at the time, but difficult to produce and poorly finished. The 235 cubic inch Blue Flame inline 6 made only 150 horsepower and was paired with a dull, 2-speed automatic transmission. There were no side windows, no exterior door handles, and the interior felt unfinished, with engine noise echoing through the cabin. Priced higher than the Ford Thunderbird, but slower and rougher, the Corvette C1 failed miserably. Only 300 cars were built, and most sat unsold in showrooms. Ironically, that failure sparked the rebirth of an icon. A few years later, with the introduction of the 265 cubic inch V8, the true Corvette legend began. But 1953 will always be remembered as the roughest start to America's greatest sports car. The 1950s were America's boldest and most reckless automotive decade. The cars we saw today may have failed, but they paved the way for innovation, creativity, and lessons learned the hard way. Sometimes, only by going too far do we discover the limits. Without flops like the Edsel or the first Corvette, there might never have been the icons that followed. Each disaster tells a story of ambition, mistakes, and the eternal belief that the next car would finally get it right. So how about you? Have you ever seen or driven one of these automotive disasters? Share your story in the comments and don't forget to subscribe, because next time we're diving into the car failures of the 1960s when Detroit still hadn't learned its lesson.